thinking process, you don't react quite so quickly as you might do, you know, in an argument or react to a situation. You see things in a calmer sense. I know that when I haven't meditated for a while, I can feel that stress build up. I feel more relaxed, and I'm pretty certain that it has a much better effect on me as a person and on my body. But also I do feel that it enables me to connect with the spiritual world a lot easier.
Is it an aphrodisiac?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think some people may have an experience.
Or is it completely the opposite? Is it a prophylactic?
No, well, you could use it as a aphrodisiac if you focus on love, because there are different meditations that you can do. Some of it is about imagination, and some of it is about gratitude and love. So if you wanted to focus on love and your partner, your meditation would be about breathing love into your heart for them, and your reaction to them is more positive. It makes you feel closer to them. It makes you want to do things that are much more loving towards your partner, and much more positive thoughts. So I don't want to say too much, but I think it would. I know that in my own experience, it does make closeness to your partner much more.
Does it connect to massage as well?
I wouldn't say so. Some people might be different because of their sensory, makeup. But
so meditation and massage don't necessarily combine.
No, because meditation is
physical.
Yeah, it's a very single personal journey.
Right. Okay.
And it doesn't involve contact with anybody else.
Yeah. So absence of contact.
The opposite.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you think part of meditation too is that you can send out healing thoughts to someone who is unwell, or even a country that's not well? Like, we know in particular one that's suffering with a terrible president at the moment. We can send out healing thoughts to an entire country and try to envision a better life for those people. You can, if there's someone that's around you, or if you're having some issues in your relationship and you feel like you're a little bit stuck, you can actually, in a meditation, envision what you actually want that relationship to be. And because thoughts are real, you can start creating that impression of what you're seeing, and that tethers out into, your world and into what's going on around you. And sometimes that energy can be quite infectious.
Was Jung into meditation?
Through art. And I'll let Claudia explain that, but he definitely brought spiritual healing and art together as part of personal development. But I'll let you explain that, Claudia.
Well, I was going to say what he was actually developed the term, the collective unconscious. He believed that all humans are connected to a greater consciousness, an infinite pool of memories, knowledge, wisdom, and experience that contributed to every human throughout many lifetimes. So this massive pool of anything that's ever happened is in this pool. So if you're ever meditating and you're looking for a particular answer, you can access the collective unconsciousness to seek answers. And this is a term that Jung actually he put forward. He believed that this was something that we're all connected to, this pool of energy, of intuition, or whatever. Sometimes you just get that spark of information that just comes from this place.
I think, from our spiritual point of view, from in the heavens, we become one. We are all connected. But also, don't forget, that Jung brought in the phrase "the collective conscious," which is about our history and the archetypal. So don't get confused with that. Claudia's
that's right. They're two different things. That's right.
With that, as a poet, a musician, that I know that you are, and I know that last week we spoke about music and the harmonics. and you very much approve of the fact that music and meditation go hand in hand. Do you think it's possible in a state of meditation to write music?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, because when we used to play and write music, I know that when I was on my own, and I've got quite a number of songs that I'd written purely by sitting quietly and meditating and then just playing, and then something would come to me. Yeah. But I'm sure it's about creating that space to allow creativity to come in. I know many people that paint or draw, or like yourself, anything to do with 3D art. A lot of people have the practice of meditation first.
Now, back to Jung. I Ching was something that he was involved in. Could you explain that to me? Because I've done it in the sense that I've cast the stones and things, but I don't understand it. I don't understand the prophecy process, if that's right, or the indicator. Have you tried I Ching?
Yeah, we call it I Ching. You call it I Ching. Yeah.
Itchy.
Itchy. It's so obviously you've got 3 stones or 3 coins. You could even use 3 buttons if you wanted to. And
as long as you've got an A side and a B side.
That's it. And you basically throw them, I think it's 3 times.
6.
In the first section.
Oh, sorry.
And you record how it looks.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you've got 2 that are on side B and 1 on side A, you'll draw the symbols for each. And then 1 set of 3. Then you have a break, and then you throw them again, and then do another set. And then you line them up, you correlate them to the information that you're given that links to the meaning for each of those sets of symbols, the collection of symbols, if that makes sense. So if you had BAB, where do you find that in the chart of what the interpretation of that means?
Yes.
So it gathers a story by the end of it, and then it comes up, the last 3 should give you the kind of result of what you've done.
Yeah.
But I haven't done it for a long time.
Is there a spiritual influence in the casting, do you think?
What do you think,
I think you'd have to be, if you're the one that's actually doing it, absolutely. It's no different than like doing the tarot or anything like that. It's as long as, or using, precious stones or whatever, depending on what it is, your rune stones, depending on what you're trying to interpret or forecast, even tea leaves.
Yeah, but oddly enough, like rune stones, which are not dissimilar to the I Ching, you hold them in your hand and rattle them and breathe on them.
Yeah, it's your energy.
So you put energy and you put vibration on them, and then they'll move. I don't think you throw them 6 times from memory, but it is about throwing them on the ground and then collecting those different patterns.
Yeah. Did you get a bit of a forecast about whatever it is you're looking for, if you're looking for answers? And it's all about, like, the collective unconscious. It's just a way of actually using a tool that you can have in your hand. So you have to have a question in your head, don't you?
Yes,
or
you do.
something. Yeah, it's something that you're wanting an answer to, and then you're using this tool. You're accessing the unconsciousness, the collective unconscious. Think about the question. You meditate on it for a little while. Then you use the tool to give you an answer. And I do believe that using them yourself, if you're the seeker of the knowledge, you're the one that is to actually activate the tool and accept whatever the answer is, because it might not always be what you think. There may be a slightly different answer to what you're actually expecting. So you should do it with no expectations, and just
that's certainly the secret.
Yeah.
And did Jung find that, do you think, interesting because it accessed the collective consciousness?
Absolutely. And I think, as I just described it, it provided a tool.
Yeah.
So it actually enhanced what he was already trying to explain.
Yes.
He was also an astrologer, so he studied astrology quite in depth, because he found that it helped him in his working life with his patients, because by casting a chart first, he'd be able to have a very good idea of the sort of person he was dealing with. He'd be able to see what's happening in their current life, and he'd also be able to see what the contributing factors are in relation to their behavior, good or bad, relationships and so forth, in their home life and their working life and so on. So he found that by having a chart prepared before he would actually see them for the first time, see his patients for the first time, he would already have a really good handle on what was going on in their lives. And they were really quite often overwhelmed by the amount of knowledge he seemed to have in relation to what was going on in their lives. And he used it in his healing process.
Are you a Jung aficionado as well?
A Jungian?
Yeah, I've been studying Jung quite recently in creative therapies, and there are a lot of theorists that are support the Jungian theory around the collective conscious and how we draw on our archetypes and symbols that mean something to us in our family context or the history of our family.
Yeah.
But it also, where it connects the unconscious, it talks about, he believes that once you become very involved in art making or any form of art, that the ego leaves, and this allows you to become more creative and more open, so you become the true self, and then that allows an element of oneness with kind of like the spiritual world. So it allows some form of spirituality or spiritual awareness that in actual fact might sound ironic that they're not aware of, but it does form part of their personal healing. That it may be, because they use it in trauma a lot, where people aren't able to talk about their feelings, or in fact may not be able to relay the actual incident, which I think that's a great idea. You don't have to relive the whole thing.
Yeah.
So they use creative therapy to use symbols and any form of media, which could be sand or clay. It could be like a photo montage. It could be.
But it doesn't matter what it is, but is coming back to again what we were saying last week, or exploring last week, which was the process of speech defining heaven.
Yeah.
Is that with art there is no speech. It is a language, but it is another language, which allows for a multiplicity of interpretation, does it not?
Yeah, because there's a difference between self-expression through art and communicating. So you've got your formal and informal communication, but expressing yourself is a form of communication, but it's not in the sense that we think about it. So I remember, as young as 7, 8 years old, looking at art, and I was confused by the fact why things looked so obscure and it wasn't the correct colour and for things, or it didn't look like it was actually supposed to. And then it dawned on me a bit later on that was somebody's perception of what I believed should have been, like that looked like a photograph.
Yeah.
It doesn't look anything like it.
Yeah.
But I was only a little kid then. But then I remember sort of like growing into so whatever you see, you can paint it the way you want. You can produce whatever you feel, whether it's texture or colour, and it creates an emotion.
Because it comes from within, doesn't it?
Just like Russell was saying in the previous episode, that element of communication or expression creates vibration, doesn't it, and energy.
Yeah. And then you can interpret it in art or whatever.
But I love it, don't you love those scenarios when you see people having, they've got a vast array of abstract art all over the place. You get somebody who's come off the street and goes,
a red dot.
Yeah, look at that. I could have done that myself. One line. Oh, what's that? That's not art. So, but no appreciation.
Well, except that the part that I hate about artists more than anything is that you'll have this huge work of abstract whatever, or not even abstract.